I want to know what you think the top 5 mixing plugins that have come out in the last couple of years are. Drop them in the comments below, because today I'm going to walk you through what I think the top 5 mixing plugins that have come out recently are and why they're super cool and awesome. You should definitely check them out. So let's dive in. The first plugin I want to talk about today is Steinberg's vocal chain. Now, stock plugins usually get a lot of flack from people because, I don't know, they don't look as pretty as some of the more fancy ones, but stock plugins are badass. Like, I will speed mix an entire song with just stock plugins and demolish. I love stock plugins. They're great. You can do a lot of damage with them. Steinberg put out a fantastic plugin here. If you're a Cubase user, you're going to love this. If not, bear with me, then just skip to the next plugin. But Steinberg's new plugin, Vocal Chain, is phenomenal. They absolutely hit it out of the park with this. So let's take a look at this. It's literally everything you'd ever want to use in a vocal processing chain, all in one plugin in one place. So it's great. I just loaded this shiny pop vocal thing here. I screwed around with it for 2 minutes. I got it dialed in. So I'm going to show you before and after on some raw vocals.
The empire no one dares to contest, and I'm a fallacy the world believes to know.
Awesome, right out of the box. The plugin comes with a ton of great presets that you can use as a starting point and tweak from there. If not, everything you need is on the left side. So let's break this down. So the plugin is in 3 different sections. You got the clean, the character, and then the effects section. Starting out here, you have a cut filter, so just high and low pass to remove rumble or any like really hissy air or anything like that that you might not want. That's the first thing. Then they follow up with a gate that gives you the control to basically go in and, get rid of any unwanted noise, mouth smacks, etc. Then you have pitch correction in case you need that on the vocal, which is great to have that built into a vocal mixing plugin. And then a de-esser, because at first de-esser is always important. This is a great place to put it in the chain. You can tell they put a lot of thought into this. The next thing here is the dynamic filter. Now this is great because you can use dynamic EQ to come in and, for example, some singers might hit specific notes. Like, for example, listen to this vocalist.
The empire no one dares to contest.
Certain vowels and notes are pinching a little bit, so we can just put a dynamic filter here and attack those notes and hit it only when we're hitting those notes.
The empire no one dares to contest.
And it just keeps the top end so much smoother. So dynamic filter, fantastic to have this dynamic EQ in here. Really, really great. Next, they're going to follow it up with a compressor. Now you've got some different styles. You got a vocal comp, a transparent, an extreme, and a black valve. Each one of those has a different character and you can play around with it. So, you've got different types of compressors you can use all in one plugin, which is great. And then it's going to be followed up with an EQ. So you can do a general EQ, but there are 3 different modes. There's Pultec style, there's Pultec mid-range style, and then there's a regular parametric. Awesome. A lot of cool stuff to have in one plugin. Now, going forward here, we have an exciter if you want to make your vocals like a little bit more exciting and add some harmonic stuff into it. You've got a saturator with 3 different types, so tape, tube, and distortion. So you can come up with all kinds of different effects like lo-fi and etc. And then it's going to be followed up with another compressor. It's popular in mixing to go in with, for example, an opto compressor and hit the vocal and then maybe go into like an 1176 FET style compressor, something a little bit faster. Some producers like to stage different compressors. This plugin gives you the opportunity to do that, which again, I think is really well thought out. And at each stage, you can pick what type of compression, how much, if you want a side chain, etc. Very powerful. It's going to follow that up with a little bit of a dynamic filter because anytime you compress, of course, you can bring some weird stuff up in the vocal. So this helps you control that. An additional EQ, again, with all of the different types of EQ settings. And then a final de-esser because after EQing and compressing and all that stuff, you definitely will need a de-esser at the end of the chain just to hit any overages or little things that kind of poke out. All right, so moving down to the effects section, this is also really thought out. They have an imager, which is cool, which is like the eventide thing, like the +7, -7 on the sides to widen the vocal. Always love that effect. I use a hardware analog version of that on my actual SSL console. There's a delay, which is awesome because you can send it to the reverb, which is a mixing technique that a lot of people like to use because it takes the decay of the delay and puts it into the reverb and gives it some extended length. So that's a very popular technique. The fact that you can just push one button and boom, you have it in the plugin. That's really well thought out. And then finally, there is a reverb. And now on each one of these, of course, there's different types of delay and reverb. And the reverb you can also send to the delay. And another thing that's great is you can also have a ducker, right? Which is a very advanced technique that mixers like, where you can take the reverb and duck it when the vocal is singing. And then as soon as it comes back, the reverb comes in and fills in the tail after it to give you a little bit more space and clarity. You have that built right into the plugin, which is brilliant. That is a lot of power for a single plugin. So Vocal chain. It's super badass. You should definitely check this one out. All right, on to the next one. The second plugin on my list is this Tone Project's Michelangelo EQ, which is modeled after the Hendy Amps Michelangelo. This plugin is awesome. This plugin's really blown my mind. And if you've seen any of my speed mixing videos, you're definitely going to see me use this plugin. I love this thing. This is fantastic. One thing I really love about this plugin is how good the analog modeling is. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth, something that you're probably not going to hear anywhere on the internet, and I'm going to go hide because plugin companies are going to take a hit out on me after this, but accurate analog modeling is way farther off than anybody wants to admit. Take it from me, I own a software company, so I know I've talked to some of the best, most advanced programmers in the world at depth about this topic, and we really have a long way to go to get accurate analog modeling, if we can ever even do it at all. It's yet to be determined. But any plugin that I think does a really remarkable job at modeling is a huge win for me. And this is one of those plugins where I think the programming team has absolutely just hit it out of the park. And this thing sounds phenomenal. Again, you can mix great with plugins. They sound awesome. You can mix great with hardware. They sound awesome. But to say it's one-to-one is not accurate. It's not true at all. There are differences. And anybody who tells you anything else is probably lying to you or has an agenda. So let me tell you the truth. That's the honest truth. Now, so all that being said, let's dive into this. This plugin is a combination of a saturator, right? So you can saturate and an EQ, but then there's some other bells and whistles. For example, if I just take this mix really quickly, let's saturate it. This is just on the mix bus. So it's got a nice warm saturation and it's just got this really powerful EQ. So let's just do this in a couple seconds here. So just those moves in a couple of seconds on a mix that's just fader balances before, after. All right, so I have it a little bit louder and it's not gain match. Sorry, beat me up in the comments, whatever, I don't care. The point is that you can hear this is a really good sounding EQ plugin. It's just very smooth. It's hard to make sound bad. And it's got a really nice saturation in it. I love this. This is like one of my go-to EQ plugins when I'm mixing. It always sounds phenomenal. Now, under the hood, it gets a little bit more interesting here. You can hide these controls, but there's this advanced section, and this is where this really gets crazy. So you can EQ the mid or the side on any band, and then the transient or the body or a blend. So that is like really, really crazy. So for example, say we flatten this all out real quick, and we just wanted to EQ the transient in the middle, right, of the top end. So let's crank that up and see what that sounds like. So you have total mid-side control and you have total like body versus transient control and then any combination, and then you can do dynamic EQ, which is insanely awesome because this plugin is super, super musical. A lot of people love the Michelangelo hardware for how musical of an EQ it is. So you have a great sounding EQ. You don't have to look at a graph, and then you have total control over each band. You have the ability to adjust some of the saturation. This plugin is just badass. It's a total winner. It sounds great. It's got a lot of incredible features. This plugin is very, very well thought out. And I happen to know Chris at Hendy Amps, and he is just one of the most passionate, gifted, talented designers. I know if Chris is going to make a plugin, it's got to be really, really good. And the guys at Tone Projects just, like I said, hit it out of the park. So definitely check out this plugin. It is a monster. The next plugin that makes my list is the Sante EQ plugin. And hands down, I think this has to be my favorite mastering EQ plugin. I just love the curves, the way this thing sounds. I know they put a lot of thought and effort into this plugin, and it's fantastic. So this is coded by Metric Halo, and it's by Make Believe. Now, I have literally sat in the studio with Rick Carson, who designed this and built this plugin. I've sat in his studio and listened to the unit that they've modeled this plugin after and listened to this. And like anytime somebody, as I said, nails the curves and the tone and the character of the hardware and does a really, really great job with the modeling, you got to give them credit. This is also one of the best modeled sounding plugins out there in the market. And I feel like it takes it as far as we can currently go with the technology. So this EQ sounds phenomenal. Now, there's a couple of cool things in here that I really like. If you click on the Sante logo, You can use like an aggressive analog model or no model. You can scale out the curves and you can see them. They really took the time to like get every one of these curves perfectly dialed in, and it just sounds great. This is really, really powerful EQ. So I love how this thing sounds. So I'm just gonna take 10 seconds. I'm gonna EQ something. Let's hear it in action. What a beautiful sounding EQ. It just sounds fantastic. Now, other notable features on this, you've got left and right input and output. You can use this in MS mode, which is, again, super powerful for mastering, because you might get in a situation where you're just like, I want a little bit brighter guitars on the sides, or, you know, the vocal up the center is a little bit peaky and it's just a little bit harsh in the 2K, but it's great on the side. So I just want to EQ. This plugin sounds fantastic, and it's just really, really awesome on a mix bus. There's a lot of great mixers like Randy Stapp, for example, one of the greatest of all time, who have used the Sante EQs as their mix bus EQs for their entire career. So this is a definite checkout. This plugin rocks. The next plugin we have here is called Freak Sniper. Now, this is a URM plugin that comes with your Nail the Mix subscription when you sign up at nailthemix.com that you can use. And this is powered by our good friends over at Joey Sturgis Tones. Now, this plugin is amazing because what it does is it takes your source material. It could be a guitar or a harsh set of cymbals or a vocal that has weird peaks in it, or even a mix or a master that just has nasty resonances in it. And it goes and it gently removes those with insane precision in a totally musical and transparent way that doesn't leave a sonic signature. Some of the resonance removal tools on the market, while being fantastic, leave a sonic signature because they're applying like a dynamic removal curve, and it's super aggressive and it's very broadband. This is extremely transparent, extremely targeted, very fast and easy to use. So let's head over to the UI. What we're gonna do is we got this really shrilly, shrieky, bright, nasty guitar. Let's listen. Oh boy, we're gonna learn this. And it just found, using a very advanced algorithm, everything nasty. Now, if we want to audition the frequencies, and that is all the nastiest, peakiest stuff in that signal. So if we add the filters, boom, there it is. We can adjust the magnitude. We can use dynamic or static EQ removal, but let's just stick with static for simplicity. You can hear how just way smoother that sounds immediately out of the box. Like I said, this thing is fantastic on masters. It's great on cymbals. Another great use case real quick is this thing can remove like a nasty snare ring. So for example, if we want to get rid of this, we can simply learn it. Now let's make that more tolerable. Here we go. We're going to add filters. I like that it doesn't take the personality out of it. And again, you can make this dynamic. For example, if you're using a vocal, you can make this static, but it also allows you to just very gently and smoothly remove the nastiest parts of any audio. So this plugin is crazy. Like I said, it comes with a URM subscription. So it's definitely something you want to check out if you're over at nailthemix.com under the plugin section. And last but not least, we have to talk about, I think, what's probably the best sounding channel strip out on the market, which is Solid State Logic, or SSL's own 4000 strip. Now, 4000 channel strips have been around for a long time. I mean, Waves has got a great one. Brainworks has got a great one. UAD's got a great, like, there's so many of them out there. How do you know the difference? Well, they all sound a little bit different, I will say. And more importantly, this one really caught my eye. Why did it catch my eye? What makes it better than, like, for example, the Brainworks one or the Waves one or any of the other ones? For me, it's the sonics. I feel like they've gotten closest. How do I know? I'm sitting in front of an Origin right now. I've got 32 channels of SSL EQ and a rack of 8 dynamics sitting right over there right next to me. And I use them every single day of my life for the last 8 or 9 months. And that's what I mix on. When I heard this one and I finally sat down and tried it, even though I know this has been out for a couple of years, I was like, wow, they actually got closer than anybody else. So for me, that's a win. Like, this has more of that kind of sound the 4000 kind of sound than I feel like any other plugin. Let's have a listen to this thing and a look. So it's a typical SSL strip, meaning you've got the high pass, low pass filters. You've got the standard SSL EQ. There's the brown knob, the orange knob, black knob. I think they made one with like a purple knob. I don't remember, but I'm a black knob person. To me, that sounds the best for the kind of music that I mix. I really love it. You've got the dynamic section here. You've got some channel stuff. You've got the variable drive stuff. You've got the trim and the ability to hook this up to their controllers, which is really cool, and seamless integration, which I know like having a tactile work surface is something that I really like. But like I said, what got me the most about this is sonically, I think this sounds really good and really spot on. So let's head right on over here in the mixer, and I'm just going to compare that to the Brainworks. Now, what I did is I tried to match these settings like as close as humanly possible for 3 different sources. I got a bass DI, a guitar rhythm, and a drum bus. So we're kind of hearing something, I don't want to say like a mix, but it's just like a couple of moves. So for example, the drums, I've got some pretty heavy EQ moves here, right? So you can kind of like really hear how it distorts, or if they modeled the saturation, how it bends. You've got the compressor in it, right? So you can kind of get the vibe, okay? The guitars, again, I did some heavy EQ moves here just so you can kind of really hear it in action and get the flavor of it. And same with the bass, I did some wild cuts and boosts. And again, the idea was, let's try this on 2 different strips and see what happens. Now, what was interesting to me is the curves are not exactly the same on all of these. And I feel like if you used a couple of different SSL strips, you'll notice that like the top boost is slightly different, or some of the mid-range, it's not consistent. So I guess you just gotta pick one. All right, so let's A/B this. So before and after with the strip on and off, check it out. Now the brain works. When I hear that mid-range, and if you pay attention to the mid-range, there's just a little bit of a difference, but this mid-range sounds way closer to the actual console and the hardware to me. One more time. Also pay attention to the low mids and the bottom end. That SSL strip is just awesome. So for me, for a channel strip, if I'm mixing in the box, like this is what I'm using from now on. I love it. I think this is worth checking out. And of course, SSL would nail SSL better than everybody else, in my opinion. So definitely take the time to go check out the SSL channel strip plugin. Well, that wraps up my top 5 plugins of 2024. Now you might be wondering, well, Joel, how come you didn't pick something like Golfos or Soothe or like Sonic's Voca? There's all these cool plugins that are out, or like Sonable Smart Comp. There's all these really, really cool plugins. And yes, I didn't pick any of the AI tool ones because for me, I'm a mixer and I do this professionally for a living. So for me, like I care most about sonics, right? I know how to EQ. I don't need Soothe when I mix, okay? Sometimes I'll use it in a pinch, but it's not something I reach for. It's a fantastic plugin. I really, really do love it. It's got a lot of great uses, and I know a lot of people get great results with it, but like, while it's incredibly innovative, what gets me way more excited is like when somebody models something, because I know how hard that is to do, and just absolutely demolishes it and hits it out of the park, like the Sante or the Michelangelo or the SSL strip, and just does a better job than everybody else in the space. That to me gets me excited because I mix with my ears and try to not use so much of my eyes to mix and charts and graphs and things like that. So that's why I chose those types of plugins. Why didn't I pick any compressors? Because I feel like plugin compression just has such a long way to go. Now, plugin limiting, I do love. I'm a huge fan of, but my own personal opinion. So let me know what you think. Did I miss any plugins? Is there a plugin that you think is really, really special that should have been in this list? Of course, we can do this again sometime, but give me a like, hit this notification bell, and please subscribe. It allows me to keep making content for you on this channel, and hopefully you've learned something. And of course, if you want to learn how to mix, go check out nailthemix.com. Thank you so much for watching, and happy mixing.